We often get asked whether virtual drifting has anything to do with real-life driving. So, we decided to ask 2 drivers from our grid who successfully combined both the real and virtual worlds of drifting.
When did my sim racing adventure start? I suppose, look, it depends on what was considered a sim racing game at the time. For me, I guess Gran Turismo was, so Gran Turismo 4 was probably the first real game I properly played. But using a steering wheel would have been Forza Motorsport 2 on the Xbox 360. I'd say it was like 7 or 8 years old at the time. It was like 2007 time. So yeah, I would have been about 9 or 10 years old. So that was my first sim racing experience. And yeah, it was pretty cool times. Forza Motorsport 2 was a great game and it was a pleasure to play it at the time.
It started many, many years ago when I was around 12 or 13 years of age, so more than 15 years ago. It all started with a simulator called Live for Speed. That's where I spent countless amount of hours practicing, and that's what got me into virtual drifting and then real drifting afterwards.
So the very first time I actually drove a car was actually my dad's van. I think it was like 2009. Around the time as well, we picked up a BMW E36 320 for €100. And we also, a little bit after that, I got to experience the Prototype Academy in an SNS 13. And then we picked up a BMW E36 328. I ended up crashing it. I actually kind of hated that car, if I'm honest with you. The reason why I haven't hopped in the E36 since, I suppose. But yeah, no, BMW E36 was probably my first real driving experience. It was 2009, I was 13 years of age. Yeah, pretty cool times, to be honest with you.
For the first time I drove a real car, like a drift spec, for the first time in 2014. That was after many, many years in simulators, after around 7 or 8 years in LFS and Assetto Corsa and other car simulators. So I already had some experience from virtual, and that of course helped me a lot driving the real drift car for the first time.
I would say sim racing has certainly helped with my real life driving. I do nowadays, I approach it 2 different ways. Obviously, as people might know, I compete professionally in esports, but I also compete professionally in real world as well. So my training for real world isn't as in depth as people might think. They might think that because I do the sim stuff all the time that it crossovers 1-to-1. But I think it's quite important that if you are training for the real world, that you are taking it and approaching it more like you would in the real world environment. In the sim world, especially in esports high level, we kind of do a few different things, car setup wise, equipment wise, to make it a little bit easier for ourselves. Like, for example, I run roof camera. I'm embarrassed to say it, it's not my proudest of moments, considering, you know, we've got such great equipment nowadays and the opportunity to run all types of camera views, but I will use roof camera because I find it's easiest. But then when I'm training for the real world, I up my steering rotation to what would be a realistic amount compared to my real car, and I also run a more realistic car setup on my sim car and a more realistic version of my real car. And I also run copy view. So I do have differences in how I approach it. Esports I do differently versus real world. And I think that works pretty good for me. Being able to flip that switch allows me to kind of adapt to both driving styles, or the 3 different driving styles required to do all 3 kind of different formats that I compete in.
Sim practice is a big part of my preparations overall. It gives me, first of all, a great opportunity to get to know the track beforehand, before we go to the event live. I can get a good hang of it. I know the corner sequence. I can even try to find some spots that will be crucial during the real competition. And in drifting we are using our muscle memory a lot, and the simulator helps me to get the right feeling, like a long time before we get to the real competition, so I can prepare myself that way. Another thing is that the simulators are now so well developed and so good that I can even gain some needed knowledge and informations about the car setup before the event itself, so I can be better prepared on the competition and not lose any important practice time. I can help myself to find the right settings on the sim, and just focus on driving when I'm on the track.
I think it's a really important that as people might realize that, you know, going from sim to real is a lot easier than going from real to sim. And I think, look, at the end of the day, the best way to break it down is that in the real world, we have essentially three main senses. You know, we've got our eyes, we've got our hands, and we've also got our seat, I suppose, is the more political way of saying it. But in the sim world, we've kind of only got our eyes and we've only got our hands, and we kind of use another sense that we don't really use in the real world, which is a sound or hearing as well. So we kind of make up for the lack of seat, I guess. You know, we don't really have motion or anything like that in the sim world. So we kind of make up for that lack of G-force, I guess, or the lack of seat. And we really become more particular on what we feel through the steering wheel and what we see through our eyes, and even what the car is hearing too. You know, certain types of tire pitch means that the wheels are spinning a certain amount. I don't think people even think about how we listen to the tires as an esports drifter. So really interesting things like that, I think, kind of like make you kind of over specify your driving styles in those areas. And I think because of that, when you do go to the real world, you kind of realize that you can relax a little bit and things kind of come a little bit more naturally because your fingertips are a little bit more sensitive to what's actually happening. So I think that's really the main difference. I think people from the sim find the real world much easier because they don't have to be so precise and so particular to get the feeling from the car. Whereas the real people, when they go over to the sim world, they find this kind of numbness, kind of like a sense of not really knowing what's going on because they're relying on the seat feeling, which you do not get, as a way to make up for the lack of, I suppose, sense of sensation and feeling through the wheel and stuff like that.
In your opinion, is sim drifting a good way to learn how to drift and apply it in the real life?
I would say it's the best way. I often get questions how to start drifting, how to get into drifting, and my only answer is to start drifting in virtual. Build yourself a simple sim setup and you are pretty much good to go. I always say that driving in the sim can actually help you to build a solid base to improve later on when you drive a real car. So definitely sim drifting is a great way to do your first steps, let's say, and then move on to real drifting after that. If you want to see how the highest level of virtual drifting looks like, join Virtual Drift Masters.